everyone, welcome back to Should You Play These Games, these lovely looking games from Marvel Damage Control, Cartaventura Lhasa, and that Old Wallpaper. So we are going to do a quick overview for each one and then to let you know what we think. Yes. Deck building, quick sort of like simultaneous action selection, tile placement, and adventure. Yes. So we start with Marvel Damage Control.
The story of this game is essentially the story of the Sokovia.
Story of the na-na-na.
It's essentially the Sokovia Accords story, right? With the heroes, actually I'll show the front of the box again. The heroes have come in and saved the day from the big alien with the spiky feet. And then, thanks everyone, we're off. And everyone's like, oh, how do we deal with the chaos and mess that's been left in the city?
So Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., some part of it?
Indeed. So this is the rubble that's been left behind. And this is fundamentally a deck building game where the market is in the form of this rubble. So every turn you'll have your 4 cards and they give you ones of the main actions. And the main actions you can do, you would play the card above what action you're taking. There's Uncover, which lets you flip over any card whose entire arrow icon you could see. So I couldn't do this one, but I could do this one, for example. There is Extracting. So you could play a card to extract, pick one of these up and add it to your hand, giving you more things to do. There is Demolish. Demolish lets you destroy a card out of here to get a couple of influence. And then there are artifact cards where they have variations on that or they have their own special types of powers. They cost this influence to play from your hand. So that's why you need to be doing things that's going to give you influence and progressing through the game. As you go, at the end of each turn, you can also discard a card, not use its effect and get 1 influence. Other thing you can do. At the end of each turn, you have the opportunity to purchase characters for your display, and you're using essentially the icons of the actions you've taken. So if I show, where's one that I can afford? Here's one that I can afford. I have taken an Extract and I have taken a Demolish. These two are in those columns, so I could spend those to gain Hercules here as a character. Or some of them combo with these artifact icons. So Spider-Man Miles here would need you to just play one of these globe artifacts. You can get 3 of these through the game, and they have various types of abilities. Sometimes they're ongoing, sometimes they're a powerful once-off ability, and so forth. This game is ultimately like Valley of the Kings or Tyrants of the Underdark from a deck building standpoint. You get most of your points by trashing cards out of your circulation and into your vault. So you need to be finding cards that have vault abilities to allow you to do that. Because any cards in your vault will be worth their power points based on what's shown here. You also get points for your characters at the end. You can have up to 3 characters, and some of them have end game objectives worth even more power. You run until either the rubble deck or the character deck has run out.
It's Marvel! Well, obviously, I am a big Marvel fan. I think more than DC. I think so. No offense, DC fans. I also like DC, but this is Marvel. So if you're into Marvel, that's the one. If you're completionist in Marvel games, this is one edition. However, I think you kind of like need to be Marvel fan to enjoy it more. This deck building. The fun bit is, okay, what time am I going to put the artifact cards into the fold and getting out of distribution, or do I want to keep using it and playing it? I think there's, as with other puzzle games, there's a bit of a downtime in between turns. So it's like we were trying to puzzle out your move. There's a few things that you can do. You usually have 4 cards, but then as you gain cards, that means that you have even more things that you can do, which is good for you, but other people just waiting, especially in higher player counts. But it usually gets replenished, recycled quite quickly, so there's no stale in this one, and then this goes really quickly. And there's usually a lot of combinations of these as well per game. So you got different sets that you can play with. Is it what they call it? Sets?
Yeah, I haven't mentioned that. There are 4 little mini sub-modules or sets, which there's a base set of cards and then you add in some from a module. So there's the Mighty Asgard module. This has a lot more Take That characters and rubble in it. The Vibranium Synthesis is the more advanced one. And then we've got Doctor Strange and Wong are in here from the mystical one. They tend to bring discarded cards back.
Captain Marvel. So it is a fun game. It is, at some points though, it is a little bit clunky. Feels like, oh well, you need to do this, you need to reveal, and then you have to look at which one, you gotta have to flip it and then put it how you put it, and there often it's probably just me. I forgot where it was from exactly, so I was like, in here, was that here, was it here, was it here? And then you have to put it like that.
There's a couple of things I like here. This, this rubble thing,
it's quite unique.
It's a gimmick for something that could just be a straight display of cards, but it's clever and thematic to what's going on.
True.
So I do like that. And I do think it's kind of interesting the way you're purchasing these characters using the actions you've taken. It forces you into doing a certain combination of actions if you really want the character there. And I haven't really seen that in a deck builder before. So I think that's quite good. On the downside, I felt that, there was a lot going on. The cards were very cheap. All you need is an extract action to take a card. There weren't that many different things going on. These are pretty basic actions. It's reveal card, take card, destroy card, and then there's vault to score points off card. Other than that, there's not that many variations. There's not those combos that you're often chasing in deck builders. So it kind of gets pretty repetitive pretty quickly. I think that's the downside of the game. I don't think it has a great deal of staying power.
Okay. So that is it. Should we play this game? If you are a Marvel fan, then yes, I think there's some clever things enough that you can play. To the next game. The next game we are reviewing is Cartaventura Laza. Now this is in a small box and it's like a series based on historical events. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. And it also has Vinland, Cartaventura Vinland. But we're mainly going to show you the sample mini adventure for the purpose of showing a little bit of mechanic and not wanting to spoil too much.
Yep. So this is intended to be a simple pick up and play game, and it is a historical narrative type of story. You would simply go through these cards. There's a third one there, which is Oklahoma as well. You would simply run through these cards and do what it tells you to do. So here, turn the card over. It starts to explain the rules of what these different cards mean. So here, for example, is an urgent card that you draw and resolve. You've got object cards, which you draw and keep. And then we've got some narrative here. So you'll start to form the narrative. You've got, in this case, it is esteem. So you will count the esteem of your character on this tracker. The last one has coins, for example, and then you'll start to set up a map. So here we've got, let me push this here, we've got card number 5, and it tells you to place cards 6, 7, and 8. And essentially you read the text, you choose the story. It might tell you to do something. Here, for example, you'd be losing esteem to take this option, and then turning it over. Here you'd be drawing another card. You turn it over, you read, you learn what happens, and you go to the next part of the story.
That's basically it, as simple as that. So this game is great if you want to get into gaming straight away. Now this gameplay is recommended 1 to 6 players. So this is basically as simple as that, the overview, as you can see. 1 to 6 players. We played with, I think it was 5 players. I feel like this is a better one for solo game. So as I hinted earlier, like choose your own adventure, or maybe like 2. So you're sitting next to each other and we read the story, we go through the story, and then we can discuss what we're going to do next. So you have options what you can do next, and then for example this one, introduce yourself as the sun, draw card number 9, and then you draw number 9, you read that. I'm just going to show you quickly. So that's the sample deck. It's a short story. It says mini adventure. And this is the longer one. This is the Lhasa. So you can see it's sort of a thicker deck. And this one, for example, this is based on historical background. So if you like that sort of thing, I think this is great because you can see, oh yeah, so this is what happened. And then it's as if you going through the adventure or you living through that historical story by playing this.
Indeed.
I know that it's definitely not for everyone. I wouldn't mind playing a solo adventure-y type of game like that. Well, I know that you probably don't really get into the adventure and then text and then story.
Yeah, this is not my sort of game.
So as I say, there you go. So I would say still play this one if you like adventuring game and more solo, or even like cooperative. You're a couple, you trying to find a time, a filler. Wouldn't actually even say a filler because it probably takes a while to get through the whole story in one sitting. If you expect a game where you need to calculate some move and stuff, you're not going to find it here.
No, this will appeal to you if you like more of the historical view. There's no high fantasy, there's no wacky hijinks necessarily. It is quite a historical view of game.
Last but not least, there is that old wallpaper. Not this one, it's that wallpaper, Terrence.
Yes.
In one of those wallpaper that you see in your grandma's wall, I do love. Let me tell you, I have to tell you first, the intro in the book. Remember that old wallpaper we used to have? In that one room, with the funky colors and those with sunburst patterns or whatever. I don't know, that's it. It just feels like very personal and very like, oh yeah, remember that? Or maybe not.
It is very retro. Wallpaper is very out these
Yeah.
days. I can't remember the last time I went into a house that had it, actually.
I'm sure I've seen it. It's just in one of those 1940s built or whatever.
A little more recent than that. I think I lived in a place from the 70s that had wallpaper, but yeah, not really done anymore.
Hey, maybe you still live in one of those places. Let us know. And what do you do with it? Do you keep them? Some of them are great, Some of them are probably not.
Some of them are definitely not. This is essentially a tile placement game. It's cards that you're placing, but it is essentially a tile placement game with a little bit of bidding. So each player has a deck of cards that ranges from 1 to 10. I'll show them there. And you'll have a hand of 5 of those cards. And what will happen, there'll be some wallpaper out on the board. When you draw one with this red oval, you'll get another one there. And then players will be bidding on which ones they want through sort of a semi-secretive draft. Because what you'll do is you'll pick one card simultaneously and play it. And once these are revealed, they'll be ordered from the top of the board to the bottom of the board. So if you want a card at one end of the table, you would try to you'd play a low card, hope you have the lowest. If you play one at the high end, then you would go for the higher ones. If there is a tie, then what will happen, quite brutal in many ways, you would look at the discs, and whoever was higher up on the disc track at the moment, here it's blue, would get all the cards for the joined positions and would go down to the bottom of the disc track. And anyone else who's there would get one of these wild cards, which is
compensation.
Yeah, a little bit of compensation. Not very much compensation, but a little bit of compensation. And then these cards would be out of the game. Ultimately, what you are trying to do is create a joining up, a pattern that joins up. You're making your own personal wallpaper pattern. You don't need to join everything perfectly. I'm perfectly allowed to place this here, for example. This one is a wild, but this one doesn't join. That's fine, it just doesn't score me points. You will get the majority of your points through these matches and through collecting sets of, collecting sets of these different embossed purple, I'll show the embossing there, very cool. These embossed purple shapes in the middle of these cards. If you do get these compensatory cards, you add them at the end and they just give you a match. Once the game is done, which is I think 3 times through your deck, I believe you, once you don't have enough to redraw, that triggers a reshuffle and you go back into it. Then you'll count up your scores, you'll count up your number of pairs, your number of these icons. If you've got a lot of these red ovals, which means you've got a lot of double and triple cards, then there's a penalty for that as well, or a reward if you don't have that many, and whoever gets the most points wins.
Sorry, these cards are not really out of game, but out of the distribution until you reshuffle the deck, as you said it. So what do you think, Tarrant?
I find it quite dull.
Oh.
It was good in theory. I think with the sets of cards there, trying to bid and hope that you were going to be higher or lower than other players, it kind of had this interesting vibe to it. But the tile placement puzzle really doesn't come with any interesting decisions, is my view.
Because you're really good at spatial and I'm not really that great.
Well, you're never getting those big combos. Anytime you place a card, it's going to be 1 or 2 points. And because there was no restriction on placing the cards to try to find that, it was just kind of a slow accumulation. And
you're trying to get to, somewhere where it's very efficient and then gets you point, try to open up this area for if you think you're gonna, but you don't know what you're gonna get as well in the next turn. So it's kind of hard to pre-plan as well. Yeah. I think this is a good one for filler family games. There's not a lot of strategy to it. By the way, if you play 2 players, which you can, then there is a third AI player, which is the grandma, who plays this card randomly. Yeah. And then that kind of like interfere with the other 2 players.
Yeah, the draft mechanism really wouldn't work if you only had 2 players.
Yeah.
So it does need that third dummy player in there.
I think this is clever to see, okay, which one is first, but it's quite brutal as well at the same time. And I think for me, I've got some sort of, I'm not really that great at spatial rotation. So for me, it's like, it's more challenging for me in terms of, well, which one I should rotate the best, which is the most efficient placement. So it is one of those tile placement that is simply just putting it in there. That's it. You don't need to think of what else you're going to put. You can't really do it anyway because you don't know what's the next one is. I always enjoy simultaneous card play, but this is a little bit random. You really don't know what other players are playing, although you can see the other players' discard pile to see what other cards you're playing. You think, okay, I want to keep this higher number because I want to get this one.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that when particularly when you're down the bottom of this track as well. You pay closer attention to trying not to match up with other people because it's always weak to get these. There's at most 1 point.
So that's it. It is a bit of a gateway game, I would say. There's not a lot of strategy to it, a lot of randomness in a way, and that's that old wallpaper, which we don't have.
Indeed.
I mean, we have the game, but not the wallpaper. Now, have you played any of these games? Would you like to play any of these games, or which one is the most appeal to you? Please let us know. And thank you so much for watching. Everything you do will help us, every single view, every time you like our video, our Instagram, I should say my Instagram, every single comment, and let us know that you are there. And make sure you're doing something fun today. See you in our next video.